While I'm here, I'm going to be sharing my very first lesson, and that is how money makes me happier. Now, it's not what it sounds like. What I'm trying to say here is that examining your relationship to money is really the key difference between living a life where you're constantly surviving or thriving. And some of the things that I've had to learn along the way is kind of thinking about where my money habits came from and why I do the things I do with money. Why is, like, for example, back 10 years ago, say, like, why was it so hard for me to, not spend on a credit card, knowing full well that, I probably won't be able to pay this off entirely. Those sorts of things kind of catch up with you. And if you're not willing to stop and examine your relationship with money, then it's going to have this control over you. And I feel it deeply. Money's got this kind of like this hold on me that is like a stress and anxiety in the back of my mind because we are not abundant in it. We're not spending more than we're earning, but at the same time, we've got another baby on the way, and it's going to increase our expenses. The raises, excuse me, the raises that we get are not going to, keep up with how quickly the prices of everything rises. And so, yeah, this lesson is just about really examining your relationship with money and starting simple, like just tracking your expenses. One of the things that pops into my mind that I started doing recently that really kind of changed my perspective on things was I started thinking about my hourly rate, or what translates to my hourly rate, and the things that I spend money on. Like, how long does it take for me to accumulate that amount of money? And the best example I can give you right now is I was watching this Alex Hormozy video that was inspired by one of my clients. She sent me the video and said, I think you could benefit from this. And in it, he talks about saving, weeks of time every single month. And one of the things that he was talking about was a meal delivery service. And if you're making a certain amount of money, it makes sense to spend the money on a meal delivery service because of the time that you're saving from having to, do research on the meals that you're going to prepare, to, drive to the grocery store, do your shopping, drive back, come back and like put everything away, and then start, prepping up everything, cooking everything, cleaning everything, dividing everything up. It takes a crazy amount of time. And so what I did was I looked at a meal delivery service and looked at the cost, and I said, how many hours do I have to work in order to be able to afford that meal delivery service? And the benchmark that I was looking at was 5 lunches and 5 dinners for Monday through Friday. And what I found was it really only costs me 3 to 4 hours one day to afford an entire week's worth of meals, of lunches and dinners. I skip breakfast. I have a green juice, I have some coffee and water, and that's it. And then I have these meals that are delivered are like health conscious. Some of them are keto meals. Just to kind of like improve my health and my my eating habits. But that was one of the biggest moves that has really freed up so much extra time for me to be able to do stuff like this. And so, yeah, just I can't stress enough, like, really take some time to take a look at your relationship to money and, why you spend the way that you spend. It's a very simple change in your habits that can completely alter, where you are 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And I know that seems like a long time, but that time horizon is really the most realistic form of change we're looking at, when we're talking about little things on a daily basis. And while, I'll mention again, it's simple, but it's not the easiest thing to do, because oftentimes we can give in to the things that we want now and give in to, not experiencing delayed gratification. And so one of the things that I have here, I also mentioned, like, don't ever say I can't afford that, or it's too expensive. If you want something, instead ask yourself, How can I afford that? What can I create that people would be willing to pay for? Is there anything I currently know that would save people time and money now? The answer lies somewhere in solving a pain or problem that you've fixed for yourself. And if you feel like you haven't solved any problems, start there. Like, just think about your daily life and where have you, created shortcuts for yourself that have saved you either time or money. That could be something that someone would be willing to pay like a few bucks for. And if you could sell that to like 1,000 people, then, right there you're making, a few extra $1,000 a month. And so things like that, changing your money mindset will ultimately lead to a happier life in the future. I hope that helped you guys. I will see you guys again tomorrow with lesson number 2.